Welcome back to our channel. In 1970, the United States found itself caught between echoes of the past and the momentum of an uncertain future. The Vietnam War raged on, the economy braced for inflation, and the public's faith in institutions teetered between optimism and disillusionment. Amidst these shifts, a small, round piece of copper and nickel emerged from the presses at the San Francisco Mint, ordinary in weight, unimposing in diameter, and invisible to history, or so it seemed. The 1970 U.S. one-dime coin, like countless others, was born from the meticulous rhythm of minting machines and the judgment of operators trained to notice even the slightest aberration. But despite the precision and routine, one error, subtle yet unignorable, slipped through the cracks. It didn't ring alarm bells. It didn't halt production. It was dismissed, if noticed at all, as a mundane fluke. Coins like this, stamped in haste, are supposed to vanish into the pockets of passers-by, never to resurface. But fate had other plans. Years passed. The coin found its way into circulation, perhaps exchanged for a newspaper, dropped into a payphone, or left behind in a forgotten change jar. It moved, unnoticed and uncelebrated, a ghost among the living, until it landed in the hands of someone who wasn't just looking at coins, but looking into them. Kevin Albrecht wasn't new to the world of coin collecting. His evenings often stretched past midnight, a magnifying glass pressed to one eye, the soft gleam of fluorescent light reflecting off piles of silver, copper, and nickel. He loved the silence, the stillness, the sense that within every ordinary piece might lie something extraordinary. One Saturday in 2003, while sorting through a batch of rolls he acquired from a local estate sale, his eyes narrowed on a dime that seemed off. Not wrong, just different. He flipped it over. Then again. The Roosevelt profile looked standard. The mint mark was unmistakable, an S pressed cleanly beneath the date 1970. Nothing rare about that on the surface. And yet, something tugged at his instincts. The coin surface shimmered with an odd texture, the edges crisper than usual, the alignment ever so slightly misaligned. He weighed it. Normal. Measured its diameter. Spot on. Still, unease crept in like fog. There was a story here, hiding just beneath the surface, and Kevin wasn't about to let it fade. He placed it under his stereo microscope, adjusting the focus until the date came into sharp clarity. And then he saw it not in the numbers themselves, but behind them. Behind the 1970, faint and ghostly, an outline. Not a smudge. Not where. A clash of timelines. Impossibly, beneath the modern date, fragments of a different 1945 flickered like a shadow from another age. Kevin's breath caught. He blinked hard, leaned in closer, his pulse climbing. This wasn't a simple misstrike. It wasn't a doubling error. It was something else entirely. A coin struck on a pre-existing die, or worse, over an entirely different coin. That night, Kevin didn't sleep. He scoured numismatic forums, pored through mint-era records, and even emailed a retired San Francisco mint technician. Piece by piece, a picture emerged. During 1970, as the mint scrambled to meet production quotas, leftover planchets and even outdated coins occasionally found their way back into the pressing process. It was rare. Extremely rare. But not impossible. And in this case, someone somehow had used a Philippine 10-centavo coin from 1945 as the base. The implications were staggering. The U.S. had minted coins for the Philippines during the Second World War. Most were melted down, lost in wartime wreckage, or shipped back across the Pacific. The odds of one of those coins being repurposed 2.5 decades later inside the San Francisco Mint bordered on impossible. But the ghost of the 1945 design, peeking through the Roosevelt dime's face, refused to be ignored. Word spread. Kevin's find caught the attention of error coin specialists, skeptics, even a Smithsonian numismatist. Some dismissed it as a hoax. Others demanded physical proof. Kevin submitted the dime to PCGS for authentication. Weeks passed. Then the confirmation came. A genuine 1970s Roosevelt dime struck over a 1945 Philippines 10 centavos coin. The strike had perfectly overlaid one design on top of another, leaving whispers of both to coexist in metal. Collectors were stunned. Not just because of the error, but because of the story it told, one of wartime economy, of repurposed materials, of overlooked mistakes turned miracles. The coin wasn't merely a minting error, it was a historical artifact. A fusion of decades. A silent witness to both a nation's conflict abroad and its changing coinage at home. Interest surged, but the value didn't spike overnight. At first, offers were modest, $300 here, $600 there. Error collectors debated its uniqueness, argued over how many could possibly exist. Some suggested it was one of only 2 or 3 known. Others, more skeptical, guessed there might be a dozen floating out there, trapped in circulation or buried in forgotten collections. But none could deny its allure. Over the years, prices crept upward. A sale in 2010 netted $1,800. By 2015, one fetched over $6,000 at a regional coin show. Then came the twist. In 2018, a private collector from Nevada came forward with what appeared to be another 1970s Roosevelt dime struck over a 1945 foreign coin. But under scrutiny, experts noticed something even stranger. The reverse design bore more elements of the original 10 centavos coin than the first known specimen. Where Kevin's coin showed faint outlines, this one practically shimmered with the profile of liberty from the old Filipino strike, haloed behind the American torch, oak, and olive branch. As if the minting pressure hadn't fully erased the past, only blurred it reignited the debate. Had someone inside the mint deliberately struck these hybrids? Was it the work of a rogue employee, slipping forbidden coins into the process as a challenge to future collectors? Or was it an honest accident, the inevitable byproduct of rush quotas and insufficient metal supply? A Freedom of Information Act request revealed that, indeed, the mint had recorded a shortage of standard planchets in late March of 1970. Emergency alternatives were considered. And though the official documents never confirmed the reuse of foreign coinage, redacted lines and vague references suggested corners were cut. Coincidentally, or perhaps not, the San Francisco facility had long served as a hub for foreign coin production during wartime, and leftovers might have been warehoused rather than discarded. The collector's market changed almost overnight. Once regarded as an obscure curiosity, the 1970s overstrike dime was now the subject of headlines in collector magazines and international news outlets. Prices ballooned. Offers reached 5 figures. Some predicted the next known sale would push into the 6-figure range. And then it did. In 2021, a specimen appeared in a private auction, certified by NGC and accompanied by documentation from a retired mint archivist who confirmed its provenance with uncanny precision. It sold for $92,500. The room fell silent as the hammer dropped. Kevin, watching from a distance, felt a quiet surge of vindication. He'd never sold his original discovery. He kept it, secured in a temperature-controlled safe, labeled simply, History's Echo. For him, it wasn't about the money. It was about the whisper in the metal, the layers of history folded into a 10-cent piece that should have meant nothing and instead meant everything. The coin's value continues to climb, driven not just by rarity, but by the magnetism of its mystery. It's not just a coin, it's a question. How many more lie out there, misidentified, misclassified, misunderstood? How many hands have unknowingly held a piece of wartime legacy wrapped in modern skin? Collectors now sift through 1970s dimes with a reverence usually reserved for gold pieces and colonial rarities. Auction houses have started offering advanced spectral imaging scans, hoping to detect faint subdesigns beneath Roosevelt's profile. A cottage industry of specialists now focuses solely on overstrike errors and hybrid mintings. Every so often, whispers emerge another possible coin, another fragment of 1945 glimpsed through the veil of 1970. But none have matched the clarity of Kevin's coin, or the richness of its accidental narrative. It remains a benchmark, the coin against which all others are compared, not just for its error, but for the way it turned a whisper into a chorus. And somewhere, perhaps in a forgotten drawer, a third coin waits, its truth hidden beneath layers of ware, its voice not yet heard. In the mid-1970s, the United States was caught in a wave of celebration. The country was preparing to mark 2 centuries of independence, a bicentennial milestone that stirred patriotism, pride, and a flood of commemorative events. As part of this national homage, the U.S. Mint undertook a special project, redesigning the nation's circulating coins to reflect the spirit of the bicentennial year. Among these coins was the humble dime, traditionally adorned with the profile of President Roosevelt. For 1975 and 1976, however, the dime bore a new design that was as symbolic as it was striking, a torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch, symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. Millions upon millions of these dimes were struck across the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, destined to become both currency and keepsakes. The bicentennial dimes were produced in such vast quantities that they became a part of daily life, slipping quietly through hands, pockets, and cash registers. But as precise and well-oiled as the minting process was, imperfections sometimes found their way into the mix, whispered secrets etched into metal by accident or oversight. Among these imperfections, an error emerged, not loud or obvious, but subtle and elusive. Some of the dimes revealed an anomaly. The torch, a central element of the reverse design, was missing or partially absent. In certain coins, the flame atop the torch was faint or completely gone, as if the fire had been snuffed out during minting. This wasn't wear or damage caused by years of circulation. It was a flaw born at the moment of creation, a misstrike, or perhaps a die anomaly that escaped detection by quality control. For decades, this error was little more than a footnote in the vast chronicles of U.S. coinage. To the average person, it was an oddity, something strange, but not significant. Then came a moment that changed everything, a moment of revelation sparked by the keen eyes of a collector. The story begins not with a loud discovery, but with a quiet moment of curiosity. A seasoned coin collector, someone accustomed to the subtle differences and nuances that separate the ordinary from the extraordinary, came across a bicentennial dime in a roll of change. At first, it appeared normal, but a closer inspection, a glance under magnification, revealed something strange. The torch flame on the reverse was incomplete, almost as if a small part had failed to imprint. The collector's heart quickened. It wasn't just a worn coin or a smudge. This was a minting error. A ripple of excitement spread, a mix of disbelief, fascination, and hope. Collectors live for moments like this, where history and chance intersect, turning a common object into a treasure. The more this coin was studied, the more its uniqueness became apparent. Research began. Other collectors and experts confirmed the rarity of such a defect. The missing torch flame was not widespread. It was confined to a limited number of coins, struck during a narrow window when the die was compromised. The error wasn't just a curiosity, it was a key to a small, hidden chapter in the story of the bicentennial dimes. This realization brought waves of emotions, excitement mixed with uncertainty. What was the true value of such a coin? How would the market respond? Could this error propel the dime from a common collector's piece into a prized rarity? The collector watched as other enthusiasts started hunting for similar specimens, sparking a quiet frenzy among numismatic circles. Initially, the value of these error dimes hovered just above face value, a modest premium for a known anomaly. But as more collectors learned of the coin's story and rarity, demand began to climb. Auction results showed increasing bids. Private sales hinted at growing recognition. The coin's worth fluctuated, riding a wave of curiosity and scarcity. Yet, the full magnitude of its value remained just out of reach, hidden beneath the surface like the missing flame on the coin itself. Collectors began to distinguish between degrees of the error. Some coins showed a faint flicker of the flame, others had it nearly absent. Each variation influenced desirability and value, creating a nuanced market where subtle differences mattered immensely. The story of this era dime evolved not just around its physical characteristics, but also around the drama of rarity and condition. And then, an unexpected twist shifted the narrative entirely. Years after the era first gained attention, a retired U.S. Mint employee came forward with a remarkable claim. According to this individual, the missing flame error was not entirely accidental. During the bicentennial production run, a small experimental batch of dies was introduced, designed to test the Mint's quality control limits under the intense production schedule. These test dies intentionally featured a slight omission in the torch flame area, meant to evaluate die wear detection and error identification systems. Somehow, a few coins struck from these experimental dies escaped into general circulation. This revelation turned the error dime into a fascinating artifact of minting history, a coin that not only bore a mistake but also symbolized the Mint's behind-the-scenes struggles to maintain quality during an unprecedented production surge. This secret lent the coin an aura of mystery and intrigue, elevating its story from a simple error to a window into the Mint's operational challenges. Collectors and historians alike became captivated by this narrative, eager to unearth more information and examples. The value of these dimes surged as their provenance grew more intriguing and unique. Physically, the error manifests in the coin's reverse design, with a delicate yet unmistakable absence. The torch's flame, typically a finely detailed flicker of fire symbolizing liberty's enduring light, is partially or wholly missing. Surrounding details, the olive branch representing peace and the oak branch for strength stand crisply struck, accentuating the void where the flame should be. This incomplete impression creates a visual imbalance that draws the eye, a silent testament to the imperfection of the minting moment. Collectors prize this imperfection because it is rare and tells a story. In a batch of millions, only a tiny fraction bear this anomaly, making it a prized specimen in any collection. It challenges notions of perfection and forces admirers to confront the fascinating unpredictability of coin production. Over the years, the market for these error dimes has seen peaks and valleys, each shaped by factors like collector enthusiasm, historical revelations, and economic climates. The discovery of the Mint's secret experiment breathed new life into the coin's reputation, transforming it into more than just an error. It became a symbol of the human element in coin production, where even the most sophisticated machinery and procedures can produce moments of imperfection. Some coins, particularly those with near-complete absence of the flame, command the highest premiums. Their rarity and connection to the experimental dies make them coveted jewels among numismatists. Others, with partial flame absence, offer a more accessible entry point into this niche of collecting, creating a spectrum of value and intrigue. Collectors today hold these dimes not only for their monetary worth, but also for the stories they encapsulate, the story of a nation celebrating 200 years, the story of a mint under pressure, and the story of chance and discovery that turns everyday objects into treasured keepsakes. This journey from unnoticed coin to prized collectible is a reminder that even in the smallest details, the faint flicker of a flame missing on a tiny silver disc, there can lie a world of history, mystery, and value waiting to be uncovered. The 1976 bicentennial dime error is more than a coin. It is a narrative, a piece of living history, and a symbol of how imperfect. The year 1981 was a time of subtle shifts and quiet tensions in the United States. Economically, the country was navigating inflation, recession fears, and the early stirrings of technological change. On the streets, life moved at the steady pace of daily transactions, and in pockets and cash registers, coins jingled small, overlooked pieces of metal that connected millions of Americans to the nation's history and economy. Among these everyday objects, the Roosevelt dime maintained its familiar role, bearing the profile of Franklin D. Roosevelt, a president remembered for his leadership through turbulent times. This coin had been a mainstay since 1946, crafted meticulously with its distinctive obverse and reverse designs. The obverse featured Roosevelt's dignified profile, while the reverse displayed a torch of liberty flanked by an olive branch symbolizing peace and an oak branch symbolizing strength. Each dime, minted at the Philadelphia and Denver facilities, was struck with precision designed for circulation but also silently carrying the stories of their era. In 1981, the mint was deep in routine production, churning out millions of dimes to meet everyday demand. The machinery operated relentlessly, dies engraved with Roosevelt's likeness spinning in rapid succession, metal blanks fed through with mechanical efficiency. Despite the careful process, perfection is a fragile thing, and sometimes, in the blur of production, unexpected errors slip through. It was during this year that a peculiar anomaly began to surface. A small number of dimes exhibited what collectors would come to call a double strike or double die error. Unlike the subtle variations that often escape notice, these coins bore distinct doubling of certain design elements. The inscriptions, the date, or Roosevelt's profile appeared to have a shadowed second image offset slightly from the original. These anomalies, invisible to most, became magnets for those with a trained eye. Years later, a passionate collector found himself sifting through a batch of circulated dimes at a local coin show. He wasn't looking for anything in particular, just the quiet joy of examining coins, appreciating their history and artistry. But one dime caught his eye. The date 1981 seemed to shimmer oddly, the numbers slightly thicker, almost as if someone had painted over them twice, but misaligned the strokes. His curiosity deepened as he noticed a faint doubling around the word, Liberty, and the motto, In God We Trust. His pulse quickened. This was no ordinary coin. As he held it under magnification, the doubling became unmistakable, a ghostly echo embedded in the metal. The discovery was exhilarating. He knew from whispered numismatic lore and past auction catalogs that such errors were rare and that rarity often translated into value. With a mixture of excitement and uncertainty, he reached out to experts, submitting the coin for professional grading and authentication. The response was confirming. This dime was indeed a genuine example of a 1981 double die error, a minting anomaly that had slipped past quality control. It wasn't common knowledge. Few had seen such coins, and fewer still understood their significance. The collector's discovery suddenly felt like unearthing a secret from the mint's hidden past. Emotions swirled: pride in owning something rare, curiosity about its origins, and a cautious hope for its worth. He began to delve into the coin's background, connecting the dots between production methods, mint employee testimonies, and the subtle pressures of mass minting in the early 1980s. He learned that the error likely occurred during a die hubbing process, where the die was impressed twice but misaligned, creating the double design. This technical flaw, though unintentional, immortalized a moment of imperfection in what was otherwise a precisely controlled operation. As news of the 1981 double die error spread among collectors, interest grew. Early sales were modest. The coin sold for only a slight premium above face value. Yet the narrative was compelling, a symbol of minting history, a tangible piece of manufacturing imperfection, and a rarity nestled among millions of dimes. The collector followed auctions and private sales, noting how prices rose and fell with the tides of demand. The story deepened when several more examples surfaced, some exhibiting even more pronounced doubling, others showing subtler shifts. The market fragmented into tiers of desirability, condition, clarity of the doubling, and provenance, all influencing value. Prices began to climb steadily as the collector community recognized the error's significance. Speculation grew. Would these coins become key pieces in Roosevelt dime collections? Could the error push the 1981 dime into the realm of legendary numismatic rarities? The evolution of value was anything but linear. Economic downturns tempered enthusiasm. Conversely, bursts of interest from prominent collectors or auction houses sent ripples of excitement through the market. The error dime became a barometer of collector sentiment, a baroque interplay of history, rarity, and economics. Yet through it all, the core fascination remained. How did a slight misalignment, a momentary lapse in machinery precision, transform a humble dime into a coveted artifact? The physical characteristics of the error were as captivating as the story itself. The doubling was most apparent on the date and the inscriptions around the rim. with the outlines of the numerals showing shadowed counterparts slightly displaced. The profile of Roosevelt also displayed subtle doubling, lending an almost three-dimensional effect to the visage. The degree of doubling varied from coin to coin, some barely perceptible, others boldly evident. This doubling wasn't just a quirk, it disrupted the coin's intended symmetry, creating a visual tension that drew collectors deeper into study. The error was rare enough to be prized but common enough to allow some accessibility to enthusiasts who sought to own a piece of minting history. But the most surprising revelation came years later, when a detailed metallurgical analysis was conducted on one of the more prominent error coins. This examination uncovered traces of a faint, previously unnoticed layering beneath the surface, tiny metal inclusions and irregularities suggesting the die used in the doubling process had undergone unrecorded repairs or modifications. This insight led to speculation that the error wasn't simply a mechanical misstep, but potentially a consequence of an unreported fix in the die production line, a detail that added an unexpected layer of complexity to the dime story. This twist reshaped collectors' understanding. The 1981 double-die dime was no longer just a product of accidental misalignment, but potentially a silent witness to the mint's internal struggles to maintain production quality. This narrative injected fresh intrigue into the coin's allure, intertwining human error, technical challenges, and historical context into a single artifact. Collectors now viewed these coins not only as errors, but as storytellers, pieces of metal that captured the tension between machine precision and human oversight. The dime became a symbol of imperfection's role in history, a physical reminder that even the most exacting processes are vulnerable to chance. Over time, the value of the 1981 double-die dime solidified its position within numismatic circles. High-grade specimens with sharp doubling commanded premium prices, while less distinct examples offered entry points for newcomers fascinated by the error story. The market reflected a growing appreciation for coins that embodied both rarity and narrative, merging monetary worth with historical significance. For the original collector, the journey from casual find to expert-verified rarity was transformative. What began as a simple moment of curiosity evolved into a deep connection with history, craftsmanship, and community. Each coin became a chapter in a larger story of the mint production line, humming in 1981, of the accidental imperfections captured in metal, and of the collectors who saw beyond face value to uncover hidden tales. The 1981 US dime with its double die error stands as a testament to the beauty and unpredictability of minting. It challenges assumptions about uniformity and perfection, inviting those who seek it to explore the nuanced intersections of history, technology, and human experience. In its subtle shadows and doubled lines, the dime carries a legacy far greater than its monetary worth, one that continues to fascinate, surprise, and inspire discovery among collectors and historians alike.